Is this game popular with autistic people?
Why would you say something like that?
Because I'm starting to love it.
Have you ever wanted to stare at a map of the world for hours on end and watch colors change? Do you like watching 8-hour YouTube tutorials just to boot a game and not understand a single fucking thing? Well, do I have just the games for you. Paradox Interactive is a Swedish development studio that primarily makes strategy games that make my little autistic brain light up like the 4th of July. They basically have 4 games and then a bunch of dog shit. Games being Crusader Kings, Europa Universalis, Victoria, and Hearts of Iron. Each game takes place in a specific time period and ends right before the next one begins. Now, I don't claim to be good at all of these games, but man, do I got a lot of fucking time wasted on them. There are some games that some consider classics that I won't even be talking about today. Mainly because I haven't learned how to fucking play them yet. Crusader Kings 2. But I will cover all that I've played enough to not get sensory overload whenever I open a menu. First off, we got my introduction to the franchise, and possibly the best recent Paradox game, Crusader Kings 3, or better known as The Sims with Incest. Honestly, this is the easiest one to get into, and if you're thinking of getting into the series, try this one first. But the reason it's the easiest to get into is honestly the thing I don't really like about it. There's not much to do. 99% of the game is war, and the other 1% is clicking whichever pop-up has the most green text on it. So it feels like most runs end after 100 years, which in this game is enough time to basically do a world conquest. Next up, we got EU4, and for me, this one, honestly, is probably the second hardest to get into. Every guide on YouTube is basically a 6-week course, and the AI is so fucking aggressive that if you don't know what you're doing, you'll get KO'd by 1460. But once you finally get a grasp on it, holy fuck, is it the most fun to play. This game is so much grander than CK3, whereas CK3 goes from 867 to 1444, and saying 1444 is being quite generous. EU4 goes all the way from 1444 to 1826, which, believe it or not, is a long fucking time. So much can happen in an EU4 playthrough that the gameplay loop never really gets boring to me. You're always eyeing up your neighbor or fighting a world war across the world, all because a random ally wanted a single province. And there's so much more to say about EU4, but honestly, I still haven't fucking figured it out. Next up, we've got Paradox's most recent game, and also their most controversial one. Victoria 3, and honestly, I mean, it's alright. I don't hate it as much as others in the community, but that's probably because I learned to play Victoria 2 like 3 days ago. Victoria 3 is also a pretty easy one to get into, but kind of for the opposite reason of CK3. War in this game is basically non-existent. You spend most of your playthrough spamming factories for goods you're low on, while every so often you try to institute liberal reforms. Because in this game, and also real life, landowners are fucking leeches on society who would rather turn to fascism than raise the minimum wage by a single penny. Victoria also follows a much shorter time than the previous games, only going from 100 years. You'd think that runs would be a lot shorter, right? Wrong. This game past 1890 chugs like integrated graphics trying to run Crysis 3. Even with all this, I do like the game. It's just bare bones. There's no great war mechanic. Diplomacy is basically a button pressing simulator. And until the most recent DLC, you had so little control over your internal politics that if you were playing a hyper conservative nation like Japan, the only way to liberalize is to coax the liberal parties into a revolution and then switch sides. Finally, we've reached the final game in the timeline, and probably the most popular one, Hearts of Iron 4. I have about 150 hours in this game, and I still don't know how to fucking play it. I don't know how to build troop templates, I suck at building planes that don't suck ass, and don't even get me fucking started on the Navy. I've watched guides, I've followed template guides, and nothing. Granted, 80% of my game time has been playing Mao and manipulating the Soviets into fighting the whole war for me just to proclaim the People's Republic of China. All in all, you need a special level of autism to play this game, and a fucking ton of DLC. All these games, despite being basically spreadsheets, are still some of the most engaging strategy games I've played. And wait, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah, fucking Victoria 2, baby. Let's fucking go! Still the king. Victoria 2 is a mystical beast in the Paradox fan base. It's simultaneously the most engaging, big-brained game in the franchise, and the most fucking broken. This economy shit is so fucked up that the devs don't even know how it works. But you don't even have to know how it works to play it. All you gotta do is tax the ever-loving shit out of everyone and raise tariffs so high no reasonable person will try to take any of your precious resources. Once your budget bar goes from a bunch of red jagged lines to a straight green one, the real game begins. Just like in real life, capitalists are the dumbest fuckers on the planet. They build the dumbest shit imaginable at the worst time possible. Oh, you're locked into laissez-faire and desperately need to build some machine parts? Here's the 530-second luxury goods factory that will immediately fail because you don't have access to dyes. And even with all that bullshit, it's still probably my favorite to play as of recent. Yeah, I know I was supposed to make a Lego Star Wars video, but honestly, I wanted to work on something that's a little more in line with my current autistic obsession. So I'll get around to finishing that series in a bit. In the meantime, I've got some other topics I'd like to make a video on, particularly the Persona 3 remake and some thoughts I have on it. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and if you did like the video, please give it a like and maybe even a subscription. And until next time, play some map games.